Folks, we're going to be ready to go here in about 5 minutes or 4 minutes, I see right now. Hope everybody's having a good time and excited for this, this inaugural Digital Expo from ASI. This is pretty exciting. So, like I said, we're going to start the presentation here in about 2 minutes. In about 2 minutes. Well, I think we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. Pretty excited about this today. Very excited about this. So welcome everyone to today's ASI Digital Expo. This is a first for ASI. I'm excited to be a part of this platform. Today, my presentation is 9 ways to keep your business on track in 2021. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know if you can write any questions you might have in the chat over there. Make sure it's the session chat. Write those down. And if we have time at the end, I will certainly answer any and all questions that I can. If I don't, I will make sure to download those afterwards. I will answer the questions and I will get them to ASI, and they'll make sure that everyone that was on this particular presentation will get access to those questions. So that said, again, thank you for being here. Once again, I'm very excited, and let's get rolling. So I think we'd all agree that 2020 was, I don't want to say a bust. For some people, it was pretty good if you jumped into PPE and whatnot. But 2020, I would say that I think we're all glad that 2020 is gone. But now that it's gone, I think that we have this amazing opportunity now to start fresh by setting new goals, creating amazing opportunities, and being open to all the possibilities that are out there and available to us. So the question is, how do we get on track if we're not? And how do we stay on track once we're on so that we can have the most successful 2021? So I've identified 9 key points that through my coaching throughout the years, and especially through 2020, we've experienced, as we all know, quite a bit of drama and challenges. So I've kind of identified what I think are the top 9 things that we need to really be focusing on to ensure that as we move forward into 2021, that we can have the most success and the most profitability for our companies. So let's get rolling. Number 1, and this is really important, folks, and that is, I think that we need to take really good care of ourselves. You need to take good care of you. Now, I have this philosophy, and a lot of people, when I first told my son this, he thought it was kind of goofy, but when I explained to him that I'm number 1, he goes, well, that's kind of arrogant. I said, no, hear me out. I have this concept of this pyramid, and each of you should have the same thing, and each of the people in your lives should have the same thing, and that is, I come first. And what I mean by that is I have to be whole spiritually, physically, and mentally, whatever that means to each of you. But what it means to me is what it means to me. And I have to be on top of my game. And the reason why is because everyone below that pyramid, and when I say below, I mean those people that depend on me emotionally, financially, and things like that. And I depend on other people to be emotionally and financially assisting me as well. So my expectation is that they're going to be on their game, but it's important. So I look at it this way. If I'm on top of my game at every single aspect of what I'm doing, every time that I deal with my wife, my kids, my friends, my colleagues, my business associates, my clients, guess what? They get the very best of me. They get the very best of me. And I think that that's essential, because you think about that. If you're not on top of your game, then there's a lot of challenges. Let me give you an example. A few years back, I had a friend of mine. I still have a friend of mine. Her name is Shauna Tremansky. And I saw her at a show and I went, Shauna, you look amazing. You know, you lost weight. You look phenomenal. I said, what triggered that? And she said 3 words to me that resonated with me. It was like the perfect storm. She said, it was time. And then when I thought about that, and I thought, that's pretty interesting. About 2 days later, I had gone to the doctors, and my doctor said to me, Cliff, do you like needles? I said, what kind of question is that? Of course I don't like needles. He goes, well, if you're going to be a diabetic in a year, if you don't lose weight. And I thought to myself, and it really made me think, I really like to see my daughter walk down the aisle and get married. I'd like to have the first dad dance with her. I like to see my son get his wings in the Navy and become a pilot. I would like to spend a long time with my wife. I'd like to take, when I do finally retire, whenever that'll be, I'd like to be able to enjoy it healthy. What am I doing? Something went awry. And I will tell you that conversation that I had with Shauna and my doctor was the thing that spawned me to lose 65 pounds in 6 months. And I've kept it off. And folks, I got to tell you, I feel amazing. And I would encourage you, if you're experiencing whatever, take care of you first. Everybody below that pyramid, your pyramid, that depends on you, needs you. And without you, what's the big deal? Okay, so think about that. Number 2, know your value. This is one of the things that I see that folks miss out on tremendously. We have been relegated to and this is no degradation to suppliers, but we've been relegated to what a supplier puts in the catalog, that what we should sell their product for. That's how we make our money. Well, that's how some people make their money. I made a huge transition out of that. And it was not until a friend of mine asked me the question. He said, Cliff, if I didn't want anything you offered me, what would you charge me for an hour of your time? I couldn't answer the question. And most people, when I do this presentation or similar presentations at the different shows, and I ask that question, 99% of the audience can't answer it. I would encourage you to think about that really hard. What are you worth? What is your hourly rate? I mean, look at what you're doing today. You're taking time away from your business, away from your families, etc., to educate yourself, walk this fabulous show with ASI, or at least navigate this amazing show with ASI, and doing all the things you do. For what reason? What's the gain? It's so that you can become more knowledgeable, more expertise, be more value to your customer. Does that not translate into more value to you, more money that you should be making? So I would encourage you to think about that. I'll give you a baseline. You're worth at least $100 an hour, at least. How would that change the dynamics of how you go to work? How do you go to business when you're dealing with people nowadays? There's an interesting, an interesting story that I heard, and I hopefully you can relate it back to what you're doing, because all the knowledge that you build up over the course of the years, the way you can help streamline things and help your customers really dovetails into this story. This accountant was talking to, it was an attorney talking to a guy, walks in the door, the guy's in a panic. Oh my God, I need help. I need help. Can you help me with this? The attorney listens to the story. He picks up the phone. He makes a call. 5 minutes later, he goes, here's your answer. You do this. The guy says, oh my God, I can't even believe you saved me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just send me the bill. He gets a bill a couple days later for $500. The guy calls up. He goes, you got to be kidding me. We talked for 10 minutes. You made a 5-minute call and you charged me $500. He goes, yeah, but it took me 20 years to know which phone call to make. So think about it. When your customers call you and they're in a panic and they need this and they need that, you have the strategic alliances with your customer. Make the money. Don't feel like you have to be relegated to what a supplier says you should sell that for. I always look at what they put in their catalog is a suggestion. That's it. If I come to the table with something unique and different and creative and package it in a certain way, why should I be relegated to selling it at a X price? Know your value. Folks, I'm telling you, it's a huge opportunity for you to accelerate your profitability. I have folks that I work with right now that are making 60% gross profit. Industry average is around 32 to 33%. What makes it different for those people versus the others? I've had people go, well, that's robbery if you're charging 60%. Who's the one who made the edict and carved it in stone that 35% had to be the margin? I'm telling you, there's so much that you have to offer, folks. You need to understand that you are much more valuable than you give yourself credit in many cases. Just a thought. Next one, know your customers, know your clients, know the competition. This means know your customers, know your competition, know your client's competition. And why is that important? It's very, very important because that way you become a better resource for your customers. You'll know how to pivot, how to move, how to market differently when you understand what's going on in the space of your customers. Don't neglect that. Now, as it relates to your customers, one of the things that is really important, I believe, is to look at building your business in vertical markets. Now, some people will go, wow, that's like silos. But to me, I will tell you, to be the everything to everybody, the general practitioner, I don't think people like that make the same money or the possibility of making the same money as people that are really focused in a field or a line of work. For instance, when I had my company, I was scattered all over the place. If somebody could fog a mirror and write a check, I'd take the order. But you know what happened is that started to dilute what I was doing in business. I went to a seminar. I heard somebody, this is outside the industry, that was talking about vertical markets and how important it is. And that is different verticals like hospitality, banking and finance, construction. And so we know construction, education, banking and finance right now, and medical or healthcare are huge, huge vertical markets. Become the expert in that space. Know the competition, know what their challenges are, know what the problems they're facing. Every time that you identify or unearth a problem, guess what? There's an opportunity. Every challenge, every problem, every problem that exists with a customer, that is an opportunity for you to help them navigate those waters. So if you really know your customers and you can start segmenting your customers by vertical market, and feel free to reach out to me at any time and I'm happy to talk to you about that. But it's really important for you to understand, I believe, the importance of knowing that. When I made that transition from being a product-only person to being more focused and more of a strategic partner for my customers in 5 specific vertical markets that I worked in, folks, my profits and sales literally tripled. Literally tripled. And guess what? And I tell people this all the time. If you're focused on, and I would say between 4 and 5 vertical markets to really get entrenched in there, really is a good opportunities. And this, when you get on that track, that's the fast train. That's the fast train right there. So things to keep in mind. Number 4, this is critical. Have plans and have goals. When I coach right now, I ask people, what are your sales goals for 2020? I want to increase my sales. Yeah, everybody does. How much? And don't forget profits. So when you're sitting there saying, I want to increase my sales by 15%, that's fine. If last year you sold at 34% margin, that's fine. That's fine. But how about if we up the game a little bit this year? How about if we try to add 4% or 5% to our margins this year? Think about this for a minute. For every $100,000 you sell, if you move the needle of margin 5 points, you make $5,000 extra in your pocket. $5,000 more for every $100,000 you sell. $1 million player, $1 million producer, you're going to up the game to $50,000 extra in your pocket. Why not? Why shouldn't you be making money like that as well? You need to be able to hold yourself accountable to this too. If you have a plan and have a strategy, I used to have mine broken down for every day of the week. How much would I have to sell to meet my goal? I also would look at how can I up the game, because of you know that if you've heard me speak before, my big message is sales feed egos and profits feed families. I'm all about the profitability. And some people will say, well, sometimes I think you're over the top with that. Well, whatever. I mean, this is me. I'm just encouraging you that if I can do it, you can do it. When I had my company and when I was working towards the end of my career, I never sold $1 million. I'll be the first one to admit it, because I didn't care about selling $1 million. What I cared about is what I did sell, to sell it profitably. So the last 6 years or so, I was between 850 and 900,000 in sales, but my margins were between 58 and 60% consistently. So how do you do that, Cliff? All the things that we have pivoted to this year because of COVID: packaging, kitting, fulfillment, company stores, all of those different things that you can bring to the table now. How do we accessorize product? How can we do custom work? Just because you get something for $1.15 offshore doesn't mean that that translates in, okay, what's 32% margin on top of $1.32? That doesn't make any sense. If you can make, if you buy something for $2 and can sell it for $6 and then sell the value as to why you're selling it for $6, there's nothing wrong with that. Have goals, have a plan. And more importantly, have it written. Review the plan often to see if you're still on track. And again, hold yourself accountable. That is one of the biggest challenges with most people, is being able to point the finger inward and saying, yeah, I need to make some changes here. So again, by holding yourself accountable and having plans and goals in place and have them firm. And look, I would encourage you, don't have goals that are, how can I say this? Don't have goals that are obtainable. What good is that? Have goals that you have to stretch yourself just a fraction. If you want to do, let's say, and this is when I coach folks all the time, I say, what are your goals this year? Well, I want to do 600,000. Okay, well, last year you did 550. How about if we say you do 675? Yeah, but what if I don't get it? What if I don't hit it? So it's something to strive for. You know, the great Ken Robinson did a TED Talk, and I love this quote that he had. He says, oftentimes the problem isn't that we shoot too high and we miss, it's that we shoot too low and we hit. So I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't push ourselves enough. Look, at the end of the day, if you did 500,000 last year and you wanted to do 600 this year, and you wanted to move your margins from 35 to 40 points, and you moved your margins 5 points, but only upped your the sales, $50,000. Who cares? Nobody's going to flog you and beat you over the head for that. Who cares? You made advancements. That's all we're looking for. Don't keep the bar so low that all of a sudden you're going to hit that. And then what? And then what? Kind of reach a little bit past that. Number 5, educate yourself. And I will say, I see the people on this call, and I want you to know that I applaud you. I applaud you in a big way about being on this call and coming to this event and going to other events. Because, folks, I'm a big believer that with the education that you learn, if you apply it, and that's what you have to do. It's like exercising. You can say, boy, I really need to do something about my weight. But until you jump on the treadmill and do something with it and apply it, guess what? Nothing happens. So educate yourself regularly, and be coachable. And what that means is be open to the possibilities. As a trainer, as a coach, as a consultant, I'm constantly going to education, and people are going, why do you do that? Because I thirst to learn. I learn every single time. How do I take that information, excuse me, and how do I turn it and apply it into things that the people that I'm working with can benefit from? I always have to do that. I have this little phrase here, be coachable, because I think it's a really important segue back into this. When my son went to college, and my son and my daughter both went on athletic scholarships and academic scholarships. They both played lacrosse. And I remember my son and my daughter both came to me and they said, okay, this is a game changer. This is different. When we go to college, all these people that are on the team are good. So what do I need to do to excel? What do I need to do to be the very best that I can be? As he got it nailed right now. So here's the deal. Number 1, you have to be eligible. And that goes back to our health and taking care of ourselves. So you can extrapolate. Being eligible as being there, doing your homework, studying, educating yourself. And the other thing is, I said to my son, Alex, you have to be coachable. You can't be hard-headed. You can't think that you know it all. You have to listen to the coach. You have to absorb the things that person's saying. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do everything, because I tell people oftentimes, they say, when I go to a show, who should I go listen to? Go listen to the topics that you want to listen to. When you're out networking, listen to everybody. Take as much as you can in. I would say this, though. You can ingest as much as you can. Be careful of what you digest, because there are some things that people say, well-intended, that probably aren't the best information. For instance, selling at cost plus 10% is a great idea. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because you do that, you're exposing yourself to 90% if something goes sideways and financially. So again, I just encourage you to ingest as much as you can, but be careful what you digest. But continue to educate yourself regularly and be open to new ideas, new ways of doing things, and stretch yourself, just like we suggested with your goals and whatnot. You want to be able to stretch yourself just a little bit beyond what you can probably obtain, and then stretch. Folks, I know people that during the pandemic did not get involved in PPE, and they made their numbers. In fact, they went above their numbers and they increased their margin. And why was that? Because they had a plan, they were focused, they got educated, they were open to listening to new ideas. And I encourage you to do the same. I really do. It's important. Number 6, a buddy of mine, his name is Brian Walters. He's the former president of the National Speakers Association. Pardon me. And I was at a conference, and Brian came out on the stage and he goes, our theme this year is WISLITSI. It's an acronym. And people looking at each other. He says it stands for, if you want something, leverage the community. And the question that I have for you, are you doing that to the maximum? We have some of the most incredibly talented suppliers in this industry. They're smart. They know their stuff. They're willing to share. I used to be a supplier. And I'm not saying that I'm part of that great, smart group. I'm just saying, as a supplier, I would see people come into my trade show booth and say, well, why is this hat more expensive? Your hat's 12 cents more expensive than that, and they look identical. Instead of asking deeper questions and understanding what are some of the things that we do a little bit differently. Are you taking the time to really learn about your community, the things that they can do, the things that they can share with you, the opportunities that they can present to you, and how to help you grow? If you need something, leverage the community. That community can be a smaller community in terms of networking groups that you can actually develop. Maybe you're already involved in that. Maybe it's a supplier core group, your LinkedIn profiles, whatever that case is, leverage the talent that you have around you. So often we try to do things all on our own. We try to make it just about what we're doing, and it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm thinking, why aren't more people taking the time to learn about what other people do? And I'll give you an example. I'm walking a trade show at the Imprinted Sportswear show a few years ago. And I saw a small loop film sitting in the back of the booth going over and over. I'm looking at it and I asked, what's that all about? And I started asking about the threads. And a buddy of mine says to me, Cliff, you don't do embroidery. I said, I don't physically do embroidery, but I want to know as much as I can about it. And shared so much information about the different threads, why you would use one versus another, the thread counts, things like that. They had this little program in their booth that was called the Madeira Color Definition Package, where you could actually simulate, you could upload a logo that would simulate the image. You could translate that onto a garment. Now, they have so many things that are out there now that do similar to this, but just that information that I was gathering from her really helped me when I started doing job quotes, closing deals, making sure that my spoilage rate when I was working with my clients and my embroiderer were much, much lower because I was able to communicate the information much better. So by leveraging the community, and I think that is much more so important for us we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. When I do my workshops, I tell everybody, you can R&D my stuff. And then I ask, what's R&D? And people go, oh, research and development. No, rip off and duplicate. Take the time. Look at the things that I share here. Make them better. Make them better. Nobody holds the holy grail on certain ideas. Now, if there is something that I've worked on that is proprietary, certainly I would not want people to steal or pinch that idea. But for the most part, ideas that we have are just repurposed. So leverage the community. And here's the other thing. As much as you take out, give back. Because every one of you that are on this webinar right now, I promise you, each of you have something unique about who you are that I would like to know about. It might be something that you know in terms of a sales technique, a unique way that you market, a vertical market that you work within, and how you go about doing that. Whatever the case may be, make sure that as much as you take out, you give back. And, Joe Charbonneau, I heard him speak several years ago. God rest his soul. He's not with us anymore. But, boy, he had a really powerful presentation. And he said, there's a law in life called the law of reciprocity. And that is that you got to give before you get. And the more you give, the more you get. And folks, that has never failed me. So I encourage you to leverage the community to your benefit in 2021. Number 7, update, review, and refine. And what does that mean? Look at your systems and procedures. Japanese practice a thing called Kaizen. That means to go in and look at things and make better. So look at your procedures. Look at the way you're doing things right now. Your marketing efforts. How are they working? I have a whole platform that I work on where I actually classify my customers based on A through F category. Maybe some of you have heard me speak at the ASI show about this in the past, but it's been so great for me to be able to streamline my customers where my A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, and if I know that there's F's, I get rid of them. It creates space for me to bring on new people or to expand who I'm currently working with. I want to know, how am I going to market to these people most effectively? And guess what? I'm constantly looking at ways to refine and update this process. So your processes that you have, I encourage you to review those and refine those all the time. You should be in a constant state of improvement. I really do recommend that. And this goes with your numbers and everything. If you find when you're running your numbers that all of a sudden you're dropping down below your, let's say, your desired 45% gross profit for 2021, don't beat yourself up over it, but look at the numbers and ask, okay, what do I need to do to refine here to make it different, to make it better, and to work it out? Again, it's really important, incredibly important. Number 8, ask for feedback. I'm a big fan of surveying customers. I used to survey every order that would go out. I would, if I actually had my screen print shop, I would actually push it out in the order. Now you can do it. You can do it electronically. When you know that the orders arrived, send a quick survey. 3, how could we have done better? How was the product received? And people go, well, you know, I'm only getting like 30% of the people to respond. So what? Take the 30% of information and use it to your advantage. So again, survey people. I would do it with orders. And then periodically, I would say, I even did it once a quarter. You know, this is just my quarterly checkup with you. Just want to see how we're doing. If you have salespeople, how are our salespeople doing? How are our customer service people? Are we responding on time? What could we do better? If you're always looking for that feedback and looking for improvement, it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. I remember being at an ASI show once, and afterwards, you know, we used to get all the surveys and they would come up and hand them to me. And I remember I was thumbing through mine. My buddy says to me, he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking for all the negative comments. He goes, Cliff, that presentation was great. I go, well, I'd like to think so, but just because you think it is, and I hoped it was, doesn't mean that the audience thought it was. So I'm looking for feedback. And I'm, you know, the nice stuff that I hear is great. Don't get me wrong. But I want to know, how can I improve? What can I do different? What could I do better? Was I speaking too fast, too slow? I used to have a salesman that told me, you know, when you talk a lot, you put your hand in front of your face. Never knew that until somebody gave me that correction so I could fix it. Once again, look for the feedback and then act on the feedback. Respond to the feedback. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're making mistakes and you're falling down, guess what? Those things happen. Okay. Number 9, be focused, be vigilant, and be passionate. I believe that passion is infectious. People, when it comes to passion, I tell you what, it's amazing. When I do my presentations, I tell this story about a young man that sat across from me on a plane, and he was sat in that seat, and he acted like he was actually flying this plane. And I won't get into the long-winded version, but it was amazing to watch this 7-year-old kid pretend like he was flying that airplane. We know we get in the bumpy areas and he'd be doing this. And he looked at me and he goes, don't worry, we're going to be okay. And I'm just sitting there watching this, can't believe it. And when we landed, I said to the kid, I said, I bet you want to be a pilot someday, don't you? He said, no, sir, I'm going to be. I said, why is that? He goes, because I have a passion for flying. And boy, I thought to myself that very minute, boy, if every time I do a presentation, if I can give it my all authentically, and I'm passionate about it, people believe in that. People gravitate to that type of thing. If I can be passionate with my wife when I hold her hand and give her a hug and I see my hug and I'm sincere and authentic about how great it is to see him, guess what? That passion is infectious. So if you're focused and you're diligent and vigilant about all the things we talked about, and you come in it with a high level of passion, you will not fail in 2021. I can promise you that. Let's wrap this up. Final thoughts. Number 1, hold yourself accountable. If you're a solopreneur, guess what? It's difficult because it's hard to do this. It's hard to point the finger inward. Hold yourself accountable. Look inward first. Take good care of yourself, spiritually, physically, mentally, whatever that looks like to you. But take good care of yourself, because everybody below that pyramid depends on you for their success at some level And you depend on them too. So imagine if everybody did that. Imagine how amazing this world would be. Ensure that you have a plan in place. If it's not working, it's a little wonky, guess what? Adjust it. It's okay. But have a plan. And folks, for all of you A types that are out there, don't say, Cliff, I've got it up here. If you have it up here and you don't have it in writing, you don't have it. Believe me, I'm a AAA type like all you out there. If I don't write it down, guess what? I don't have it. Make sure that you continue to educate yourself regularly. Share the information. And then remember, applied knowledge is where it's at. Not just learning, regurgitating it out too, applying the knowledge and sharing it. Know your numbers. Know your customers. Know your customers' customers. And I will tell you, know them deeply. Become entrenched there. Tell you what, when one person leaves and you have 9 people you're working with in an organization, guess what? It's more palatable at that point because you have 8 other allies there on your back for the next person that potentially wheels in. And lastly, be passionate with everything that you do. Folks, it's infectious. And I will tell you that I'm so excited that ASI gave me this privilege. And I sincerely mean, I consider it a privilege to be able to share and to give back to you all. And so with that said, I'm going to answer some questions. Here's my contact information. But before we go, for all of you that were on the call, or I should say for the first 5 only, that can email me, my emails are there underneath my name, and email me in the subject line, let's do this. I'm going to send you a copy of my book, 30 Seconds to Greatness. It's for the first 5 people. Send me an email because it'll be time dated at that point. But nonetheless, this has been great talking with you today. I'm going to see if indeed there are any questions. Let me go through here, and I don't know. I know that I'm a little bit over my time. We've got a nice crowd here, so thank you. I'm getting old. A little late. Okay. Well, you know what? I tell you what, folks. I know that you all are probably really anxious to get out to the ASI show. In fact, I'm anxious to get out to it as well because I'm going to be rocking on the show floor as well. So look, if you have any questions, send me an email. And I'm going to, all the questions that I get, I'm going to call those together and I'm going to send those to ASI. And then they're going to make sure that everyone that was on this call gets that. So again, I want to thank you for being here. Enjoy this amazing opportunity to network with the vendors. I want to thank ASI, as I said, Michelle Bell, Carrie Boderman, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people out there. And I can't wait to see you all. I can't wait to give you all a hug, shake your hand, have a glass of wine, a cup of coffee. I miss you. I miss you so much. So anyway, have a great show, and I'll talk to you soon.